What are primaries and caucuses? How are they different? Which is better? Are there different types of them? A caucus or a primary is a pre-election where the candidates of every party compete to winnow down the number, typically one per party, to advance to the general election in November. The caucus is the oldest form of pre-election. It predates our republic in the United States. Primaries were created as a progressive reform in the late 1800s. This was followed by a variation, different names and different types of one known as open primaries, and a newer form of primary known as either the Louisiana primary, nonpartisan blanket primary, or the jungle primary. And this has cropped up in a number of states and is being pushed by special interest. Historically, the caucus system meets initially at the county or local level. This meeting picks delegates to act as representatives to vote on their behalf at a district or state caucus that follows. As I mentioned before, this system predates the Republic. It was a critical method of allowing individual input to the revolutionary state governments that were operating during the Revolutionary War. Some of these revolutionary governments, like Massachusetts, were literally governments on the run in opposition to the royal government that had been imposed upon Massachusetts. Caucuses were also used to debate and approve the U.S. Constitution at the state level conventions after the Constitution was proposed at the convention in Philadelphia. The caucus system is set up from the bottom up, making it difficult to influence from the outside. The structure of the caucus also creates internal loyalties and regional ideologies. Early progressives wanted to homogenize ideologies and create loyalties to entities outside the parties. Big business allied with progressives to push through the modern primary system, where candidates could be influenced with non local money, and the outcomes of the races could also be influenced by deep pockets. The history of this is detailed in Murray Rothbard's book, The Progressive Era. We will talk about only the original closed primary system and the caucus system in this video. I plan to go into greater detail on open primaries and jungle primaries in a future video. The original closed primary system is what the progressives and big business created in the late 1800s. The primary system was designed to break candidates from local loyalties and instead wed them to the population and money centers. It allowed elite cliques to influence the outcome of elections normally outside their control and to have outsized influence on statewide races. Big business allied with the progressives on this. Candidates that now had to win statewide ballots needed campaign funds to do so. These campaign funds came from wealthy patrons and big business. What makes the system work for progressives and the moneyed interest is the system functions on low information voters. The average person shows up to vote and doesn't have the time or inclination to do research on a large swath of candidates. They will tend to vote for people who had the best or had more pervasive advertising in their campaign, a type of campaign that only big money will buy. The system also tends to promote candidates who favor the status quo. In fact, the system will tend to pick both Republicans and Democrats who are much closer to each other in ideology than they are to the center of each respective party. Obviously, I have a major bias towards caucuses, and I'll explain my rationale. The caucus system is very hard to influence from the outside. As a caucus is an in person event, the people who show up tend to be better informed about the issues and either know the candidate they are voting for or know a trusted person who knows the candidate. Typically, there are 1 to 3 degrees of separation between the caucus goer and the candidate that they vote for. They themselves have either talked to the candidate or they know somebody who did. A candidate who works hard to win actually has an advantage over someone who tries to use only money to win the campaign. A person who merely pays surrogates rather than campaigning in person has little chance of winning. Media ad campaign blitzes aren't going to change the mind of a voter who has met their candidate and knows what they stand for. A caucus participant who has heard the candidate talk at length and in person is infinitely better informed than a voter going off of 30-second ads they heard on their phone or TV. This type of election is very secure. Votes are typically taken by the participants, forming into groups and performing head counts, which you see in the picture going on beside me there. Everyone in the room is very clear who won. Candidates who are picked for being at the center of their party's ideology rather than the center of the establishment's ideology are much more likely to push for change. So, do we want candidates who had the most money spent on them by special interests, or those who worked the hardest to be elected? Do we want candidates elected by a core of people who are educated on the candidates, or a mass of people who have been influenced by 30-second ads and corporate media? Do we want to increase the potential for change, or do we like things exactly the way they are? So I have been to caucuses, and they're very interesting and exciting. Uh, Actually, and the one I was at didn't win, but we did get some representation, which was nice. So in the comments below, have you ever been to a caucus? Tell me your understanding of it. Uh, if you are unfamiliar with caucuses, did I give you enough information here to understand what's going on? Do you have some questions on that I could go into further? Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithm has brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, look at my other titles. Odds are good I've gotten into something you like. Please consider subscribing. And if you know somebody who might find this interesting, please share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.